I am very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I just got back from holiday, so I feel really relaxed.
Holiday? How was that? Where did you go? What did you do?
I was in Marbella with my family and some friends. We were there for 10 days. So we did a lot of partying, a lot of playing in the pool, and I feel really relaxed. But I'm excited to see you.
I'm excited to see you too. What are we doing today?
So come on in, we're at my house and we're going to have a little catch up. I thought I might talk about my journey as an interior designer because I've never actually spoken about it before. How I became an interior designer, how I built my business, some of my tougher experiences, and share some things with you guys.
Well, that sounds fascinating. Should we get going?
Let's get started.
So you're going to tell me all about your journey from start to
Yeah.
finish. Is that true?
It is, and I've kind of put this conversation off for a long time. I don't know, strangely enough, and people will find this hard to believe, but I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about my projects. I like talking about our products. Talking about myself just feels, I don't know,
Exposing.
exposing,
Revealing,
vulnerable.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's important to be honest and vulnerable on this channel.
100%. So you've sent me some questions that people have asked you.
Yes.
Do you want me to ask you your first question?
Let's get started.
Question number one. Did you always know you wanted to be an interior designer?
For as long as I can remember, yes. Like I remember being 5 and my mum never made me feel strange for this, but looking back now I can see it was really unusual. I asked for Christy towels for my 5th birthday, as every normal child does. And I was very specific. I wanted a dusty pink. You know, I've never veered away from my pastels. And then for I think it was my 11th birthday, I grew up in Holland and I moved to the UK. For my 11th birthday, I wanted a weeping willow, a tree. Yeah, again, very strange.
I mean, I'm a massive Osier fan myself, so I can see the attraction, but 11 years old.
11 years old. And again, she never made me feel like that was unusual. And my mum was a single mum, so I was very involved in things that I probably might not have been if she had a partner. So I remember she would take me out of school sometimes. We were always doing up houses and renovating. We moved like, I wouldn't even be able to count, probably like 8 times between the ages of 11 to 18. And she always renovated houses. And we didn't have, you know, teams of builders or anything back then. She did everything herself. So like I knew how to strip wallpaper when I was a teenager. I knew how to paint. I knew how to cut in on the edges. I even laid a patio with her when I was like 7. So I think my upbringing was definitely a part of that, having exposure to design, albeit not such a glamorous side of design. It was always there. And I think as well, for me, like, my surroundings have always been so important and a source of comfort for if I'm going through a difficult time. I will make my surroundings perfect and then everything feels like it's in control and I've got control in my life. So I think that was just like a mesh of all these different influences and experiences meant that it was written in the stars. I was always going to be an interior designer. Didn't have the most straightforward route, but I think I was always going to get there.
Question number 2, you ready?
Let's do it.
How did you get started in interior design?
Okay, so I had a very convoluted route into interior design. Although I always knew, even at the age of 5, that I wanted to be an interior designer, it didn't feel like it was something that was possible for me. I remember being at school, I went to a very academic school, Sevenoaks School, and everyone at that school was very much like, you're going to be a doctor or you're going to go into banking, you know, the more traditional professions. And I remember at the age of 15 having an opportunity to do work experience and talking to the career planning person and telling them I wanted to be an interior designer, and they're like, what about banking? No. What about marketing? No. I was very insistent. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And eventually, after they had given up on trying to get me down one of those routes, they found me, which was brilliant. They found me a work experience with Sophie and Cole & Son at the Chelsea Harbour. So I did that for 2 weeks, loved it. And that really cemented for me that that's what I wanted to do. But then I still didn't study interior design. So I was very influenced by, I guess, like peer pressure, being at a school like that, where it just felt like, oh, if you don't go and study like something else at degree level, like business, you're making your world too small. You're sort of, I don't know, I guess like it wasn't traditionally viewed as like something that you could be super successful at. Obviously, everyone has a different idea of success. So I went to Bath University and I studied Spanish and international management. It was fine. It was like one of those sort of, you know, no disrespect to anyone that's studying it now, but it just wasn't my passion. I was just like ticking a box, like, yes, I've got a degree, which, you know, I was lucky back then we didn't have to pay for our degrees, but if I had to pay for it, it would have been a complete waste of money. It didn't get me any further to where I wanted to be. And you know, it was great learning Spanish. I love speaking a foreign language.
Habla español?
Sí, ¿tú también?
No.
And I lived in Madrid for a year, and I think like there's a lot to be said that everything you go through in life, even if you don't go directly to what you want to do, you're going to learn skills that are going to help you become a better interior designer or videographer. You know, we spoke about that earlier. Everything you do in life, don't worry if you don't get straight there. But then I left university, and I've spoken about this before, that like it was a real low point in my life, because I think there's just so much pressure where you're meant to leave university. Well, I guess even before you go to university, you're not meant to know exactly what your life path's going to be, where you're going to go, and you're in this kind of like rat race where all your friends are like getting jobs, and I just remember like slowly but slowly I was like the last man standing with no job, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I was just watching daytime TV, getting like properly depressed, like feeling like a complete loser. And so eventually I just thought, right, I just need to get any job. So I went and got a job in a restaurant as a waitress. And again, transferable skills, learned so much in that job, how to talk to people, customer service, you know, things that I learned more in that job probably than I learned in my degree that have helped me in this current role. And then at the same time, I had a house with my husband. We bought our first house together, a very small house, and we were doing it up. And we knew a developer who was doing some work in the area in London, and we'd asked him some advice whether or not to extend our kitchen into our garage, which was what I wanted to do at the time. We had a tiny little galley kitchen, and all the cupboard doors were like falling off. Every time you open a drawer, it would hit you on the toe. And I really wanted to knock through, and this was like our big project we were going to do for the house, and it was going to increase the value. Anyway, he decided that he didn't think that was a good idea, and it was much better to have a garage in London, and so I was very disappointed about that. But what that, you know, talk about sliding doors, what that opportunity did was he was in the process of doing a basement project in Chelsea, and he didn't have the budget for a proper interior designer. He liked how I'd furnished my house. Just, you know, nothing major, but like the way I'd chosen fabrics, some furniture, I'd styled it nicely. And he asked me to help him with his project. And everything in me was like, oh no, that's too scary, I can't do it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, I haven't got any training. But I feel like, you know, you get opportunities in life, and when you get an opportunity like that, no one else was gonna give me an opportunity like that, you know. Got no portfolio, no experience. I couldn't get an internship. I used to apply to all the top studios, and even like lesser known ones in London. Like, please, can I come work for you for free? I'll drive you to your appointments. I'll be your complete skivvy. So this was my one chance. And I remember Kevin, my husband, saying to me, like, you've got to do this. Like, you've always wanted to do this, and this is it. Like, just do it. What's the worst that could happen? But I think the worst that could happen is you find out that you're actually not any good at what you really, really have wanted to do your whole life, and it's very scary. But I did it with a lot of encouragement, and I said to the developer, Andrew Marshall, if he's still watching this, we're still like friends. I'm only happy to do it because obviously you're taking a big risk. This is like a massive investment, a big deal for you. If I completely mess this up, I'm going to feel terrible. But I'll do it for free. If you let me do it for free, I'll do it. And he was like, yeah, sure, you can do it for free. So I taught myself SketchUp, which you can learn online. I designed all the joinery, the kitchens, the bathrooms, all on SketchUp. I did so much SketchUp because I was still doing my job working in the restaurant, and then I would come home and do this in the evening. I started to see real life as a SketchUp model. So I'd be in a room and then I'd start like building it in SketchUp. But anyway, we did that project, and he did that to sell. And it sold for like a record price for the area. He was a great networker. He put me in touch with lots of other sort of contacts in the industry, helped me get some trade accounts with people like Andrew Martin, who I now have a collection with. Lots of these design houses that are very sort of, there's a massive barrier to entry, like it's a chicken and egg scenario. If you don't have the contacts, if you don't have any experience, they won't let you in, but you can't get in without the experience. So I did that project for him, I did another project, and then this was around the same time that Facebook had just launched, and I started a Facebook page. So we're talking back like 2008. And through that Facebook page, I didn't have a website yet, but I just kind of wanted to show what I was doing. I always knew from day one, and I think this is like part of my success, is that I have that marketing background. You know, maybe I should give some credit to my degree because I did study a module in marketing, but I knew always get professional photographs. I can invest in that from the very beginning. It's something that I've held on to throughout my whole career for the last 15 years, is you're only as good as your portfolio. Like your last project is what's going to win you your next project. So I took those photos, I put them on Facebook, I did my own press releases, I got into some local magazines, and through that I got my first client, a private client, which was a project in Cambridge, which is a massive, beautiful house, a rectory. And they found me through Facebook and again, took a chance on me. I think so much of my success, and anyone's success, if they're really honest, is you need to be hardworking, you need to be talented, but you also need timing and luck on your side. And I definitely had a lot of timing and luck on my side. And I have continued to have that along my journey. So I did that project. They didn't really have the budget to fully furnish it and dress it. So then in order to photograph that one, I needed some assistance to help me basically like empty half of my house and borrow rugs from like the rug company, artwork from galleries. And we basically, in the space of 2 days, we took this massive lorry down to Cambridge. I'll see if I can dig out some photos, because actually the two guys that did it, Brett and Anthony, they still work with me today. And we dressed this house and we totally like transformed it and made it like this amazing project. And then at the end of the photo shoot, we had to sort of take it all away, and the poor clients were like, oh, I love all those furnishings. But again, it's like you attract what you put out there. So I knew I couldn't photograph it in its state that it actually was. I needed to fully dress it so that I could attract a bigger and better project for the next one. So we did that. Then like I did a few other smaller jobs in London, but I still didn't have the budget to hire staff. Like taking on full-time staff is a massive, a hurdle and like a big jump for anyone. But for me, I think I really, really struggled with the concept of being responsible for other people. Also, it coincided with a difficult time in my own life. I think I started the company when I was 24. By the time I hired my first members of staff, I think I was like 29. So I had a good 5 years working all by myself. But the reality of why I did that wasn't just that I couldn't afford people. It was also that what I really, really wanted to do in my life was be a mum. I wanted to have children, and I've spoken about this before. We had a lot of miscarriages. We had 6 miscarriages. So I was kind of in this like no man's land where I wasn't fully committing to my work, because I was like, might get pregnant, might have a baby, don't want to take on staff and then have to like keep working whilst having a baby. But the baby wasn't happening and the work wasn't happening. So it was just, again, a bit of like this time in life where you're like, I don't really know where I'm going. But I think, again, just always trusting the timing. And what happened was through Instagram now, and Instagram, I could like pray to the gods of Instagram, because they basically made my career take off. I got this incredible project offered to me in Cobham, and it was too big to do by myself, and it allowed me enough money to be able to hire Brett and Anthony full time. So we did it, like we fully committed, and that was 10 years ago, and we haven't looked back since. Like that project, Jenny and Richard, who like again took a massive chance on me. It was like my first big project. They were such amazing like support, really encouraging, really like trusted us, and introduced us to other friends of theirs. And that was the real turning point in my career where like it was on the upward trajectory. So it wasn't an easy route, it wasn't like a straightforward route, but I would say there's no right way to get into the industry. I'm not saying just because I didn't actually study interior design that's the right way to do it, but I think it's important for people watching this channel to know, if you can't afford to go to university, university is very expensive now, you can't afford to do a full-on degree, there's so many other ways that you could get into the industry. Looking back now, if I was to give someone else advice of what to do, I would say if you don't want to or you can't do a full-on degree, definitely try and get internships. Contact all the studios that you love and ask them what programs they use. So a lot of the degrees actually don't teach you the programs that you'll need to use once you are a working interior designer. So for us, and I'm putting that out here so we don't get a million emails, we use Estimac, and that's like kind of like a very fancy spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. It like logs all of our purchases, purchase orders, our budget. It's like the brain behind the project. It's not the most exciting part of interior design, but everyone in the entire team, no matter how high up you are, has some involvement in Estimac. So definitely study Estimac. I'll put the link in the description box below. We use Photoshop. We personally use AutoCAD. I know a lot of different studios use different software. When I first started, I actually studied Vectorworks at KLC, but we prefer AutoCAD. It's generally the more widely used one, certainly in London. So AutoCAD would be a great one to study, even if you do a short course, or even you can look at YouTube videos, maybe try and teach yourself. I taught myself SketchUp at the beginning, and that really, sufficed at the time. InDesign is another one that we use for presentations. So if you could be proactive and study and teach yourself those really important hard skills, I think you'd be in a really good place to get your foot on the ladder and get your first, whether it's an internship or working as a design assistant. I think taking that kind of initiative, that really reflects well, and that's certainly what I look for in members of my team.
That was amazing.
Sorry, I talk a lot. I
feel like you need like oxygen or something. That's incredible. Question 3. What was your first big break?
So my first big break, I think I probably talked about the two of them. There was the Cambridge project where I had my first private client. The Cobham project, again, was a massive one. Then I had a project, it's really hard to pick ones because they're kind of like picking children, but I had a project in Knightsbridge for a client from the UAE, and that was the start of like a really special working relationship with that client. We went on to do lots of their family homes and lots of their friends' homes, and that really kind of built our reputation on a more international scale. So I'd say those 3, with a lot of other clients that have sort of helped us along our way, have been like huge moments where it's kind of like helped us to the next level.
How important is your personal brand in terms of building a company?
So I think your personal brand is really important, and when it comes down to my own wardrobe, it's a bit of an ongoing joke that I dress kind of like my interiors like today, I'm matching my cushion. And when I'm designing a project for a client, often when we're doing the presentation, without thinking about it, I might have worn the same colour as if they've got a burgundy dining room, I might end up wearing a burgundy shirt. I think it just happens subconsciously. But I think it is important because you're representing your brand at all times, online and in person. So I think when you're an interior designer, you don't have to wear designer clothes, you could go to a charity shop, but I think the quality of the materials, being well groomed, having clean, short nails, all these kind of things are very important. And I've always kind of appreciated good quality. I like to have timeless design in my interiors and also in my wardrobe. So I buy things to last that I think, I'll enjoy wearing for the next 20 years.
So, Sophie Patterson, what are you wearing today?
So I am wearing, this is actually a top from Lily Silk, and I need to give them a shout out because they are sponsoring today's video. But this is the kind of top that I love to wear. I could wear this for filming for YouTube, to go and see a client, out for a date night, combine it with jeans, on a play date with my kids. I love clothes that I think are like classic, and it's all made from silk, so it's like beautiful quality and comfortable to wear.
That's going to work hard in your wardrobe.
This is going to be with me for a long time. You're going to see it a lot on this channel. This skirt I've worn a lot. This is from Stradivarius. I'll put the link in the description box. And these shoes are from GM Vito Rossi. Again, timeless. I've had them for like 4 years. So we were talking downstairs about personal brand and like how important that is. And I think like my ethos with design and clothes are all the same. So I'm really, really proud to be partnering with Lily Silk because they do beautiful silk clothing. This is all silk tops, and they're sponsoring today's video. So I thought I'd just quickly showcase some of my favorite picks from their collection. And what I love about them is that they're so versatile. So this top that I'm wearing right now is great. This would be great for lunch or even meeting a client, but you could bung this on with jeans. Or even like tailored trousers, and you could wear it for like hanging out with the kids or doing work. And the same with this one. This one I'm planning on wearing for a date night with Mr. P. I love that. I love that scooped shoulder. It's so flattering. So this is look number 2. I love this khaki silk shirt. It just feels so soft. Personally, I love it with a rolled sleeve. It just makes it slightly more casual. And I've combined that with a denim skirt. This I could do for the office, lunch, weekend. And then this is how I would dress the shirt up if I was going to do like a client meeting. I love some tailored black trousers and then just tuck the shirt in. The khaki works really well with the black, and I feel like this would be perfect for a smart meeting. And then if I wanted to make it a little bit more dressed down, I might combine it with a bomber jacket like this one. I love that combination of black and white and the khaki. This was the top that I was wearing earlier in the video with the white denim skirt, but I just wanted to show you how I could dress this up for work. It just feels so comfortable. It's like wearing a t-shirt, but it's obviously a bit smarter. And then if it was a chilly day, I would just throw, this is another jumper from Lily Silk, beautiful cashmere, throw that over my shoulder and tie it like that.
How do you guard off the moths though? That's the question.
I keep everything behind cupboard doors so the moths can't get in.
Behind cupboard doors, they can get into cupboard doors, though, right? If you've got like sealant in your cupboard doors.
Well, no, it's not completely sealed, but it does help, so it's not as arch access. And then we use all of these little cedar tags.
Oh.
So touch wood, I've never
Literally
had.
touch wood.
But there's loads of Lily Silk in here as well. Every time we do a collab with them, I end up keeping the pieces because I genuinely do love them. Yeah, this one's Lily Silk, and I've had this for years. The quality's so good, so I'd always keep what they send me. This one's Lily Silk as well. Again, they sent me that years ago.
Buy well,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
often,
And I
right?
think that's so important. Like all these clothes, okay, some of them I've had for like a year or 6 months, but some of them I've had for like 20 years. Like I do really hold on to things. For me, that's what sustainable fashion is. So this is a bit more of a daytime top. I probably wouldn't wear this for work, but I love the halter neck design. And again, I love like pairing just quite neutral colours together. So the black with the black trousers I think works really well. And I really like the long tie. And what I love about this, because it's silk, it's just really cool. So even though it's black, you could wear it for summer without getting too hot. So thank you so much to Lily Silk for sponsoring today's video. There will be many discount sales on their website during the anniversary month. Don't miss them. You can use my coupon code in the description box below to get an extra 12% off.
What was your biggest hurdle?
There's lots of hurdles. It's like at the beginning, it's really hard financially to make a company make money. With the work that I did for the developer, I didn't make any money on the first job. I had to carry on doing my other job with the restaurant. With the second job, I made £10,000. I just made money on a small design fee, nothing on the margin. So that's hard to like scale up the company enough to be able to take on your first staff. I think personally, my biggest hurdle was all in my head. You know, I was of the mindset, like I would always imagine everything that could possibly go wrong and then I'd try and solve those problems before they'd even happened. But what I've learned that does is it just slows you down and it stops you from doing stuff. You know, 99% of those things aren't gonna happen, and probably a different problem that you haven't even envisaged is gonna sort of stop you in your tracks. But I have a saying, and I like chant it to myself if something is really tough, and I tell all my team this, that there's a solution to every problem. And I genuinely believe that, like, aside from health and obviously like life and death situations, when it comes to work, there is always a solution, and it's always about trying to find what is the fair thing to do, what is the right thing to do. And even if it's not the easiest thing to do, or it's like quite painful to do, if you want to have success long term, that's what you've got to do. So I think definitely I held myself back a lot for the first 5 years through overthinking and over worrying.
What is your secret to success?
I don't know if it's a secret, but like what kind of drives me is proving to myself what I'm capable of. You know, I'm like deep down, I'm an introvert. I hate being on camera. I hate being the center of attention. I get really like anxious in social situations, and my job requires me to do all of those things. So I just consistently put myself out of my comfort zone. And, you know, I kind of viewed my whole career as almost like a bit of a game. Like, let's just try. Let's just see if it's possible, you know, with doing like client projects, like bigger projects, you've always got to push yourself beyond what you've done before, otherwise you'll just get stale. I always just think, you know what, why not me? If it's going to be if it's not me, it's going to be someone else. And you know, everyone has to learn things at some point. So pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and probably social media, my ability to be truthful, and like, you know, I'm not gonna run away from what my background is, or the fact that I haven't had the formal training. Some people might see that as a weakness. I think it is what it is. Everyone has a different route to things, and I think connecting with your audience has really been a key thing in our success, and like sharing our journey and behind the scenes on social media. We've been doing it since 2012, before any other studio was really doing it. And I think I've got social media to thank for a lot of our success.
What do you look for in employees?
Good question.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to be surrounded by people that I like. I want to have nice people. I want them to be kind. I want them to be team players. I want them to be honest. I think that's all really important attributes, because they're representing the company. Most of them are client facing. Beyond that, I think what really impressed me about Brett and Anthony, for example, my first full-time staff, was just their ability to take initiative. Like, I had a real fear of letting go of control. I'm a bit of a control freak, perfectionist. But when I could see that they could anticipate problems and come up with a solution, I was like, oh, like this is like such a weight off my shoulders. So people that have initiative and are like problem solvers rather than people that just come to you with problems and like, you know, there's nothing worse than someone that's just a computer says no kind of person. Like there's always a way, it's just about working out how we can do it. So I'd say those things.
Okay, how are you feeling? You all right?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, good. How did you start designing collections?
Okay, so I love designing collections. This is probably something that I started, my concept of time is rubbish, but I always judge it by my kid's age. And I think I was pregnant with Ava when I started. And the first one was co's. We do monogrammed towels, bed sheets. We do like table linen, lots of things with them. And they approached me, this was my very first one, they approached me and they wanted me to do a collab with them on Instagram just to promote them. So I did a collab and I picked a towel and like I looked at their selection of fonts that they had and the colours, and the product itself really impressed me. Like the towel quality was beautiful, like, you know, the customer service was great, but I just said to them, I was like, you know what, I think you could improve this. If like we could expand the selection of fonts, we could do like more colours, different product categories. You know, I can't help myself. Like, even though I didn't think it was going to be with me, I just wanted to tell them, I think you should do this. And I met with the brothers, the two brothers who own the business, and they were like, well, we'd really like to do it with you. Like, you've got all these great ideas, why don't we do it together? So that was my first collection. And I love doing that. Like, I love the products. I have them all over my home. We're expanding the collection consistently. We're actually finally, and this has taken quite a few years, going to do a really thin bedspread. It's something that you guys ask me about a lot on the beds when we dress them. I don't like a big chunky bedspread anymore. It's a very thin bedspread, and we're manufacturing our own. We're going to bring out one colour because we have the minimum order quantities are quite large. So we'll bring out taupe, of course. It would have to be taupe. That will be launching at some point this year, so I'm really excited about that. But that was really the kind of first sort of collection I did, and it showed me, firstly, just how much I enjoyed it. Like, I love that side of things. And I think what I enjoy about it is, and what makes me good at it, is that through my experience as an interior designer, I've got so much awareness of what's on the market, and then I can also see gaps in the market of what's missing. So every single collection is evolved very organically, whether it is the brand that's approached me or I've approached a brand. I've known what I would like and what I'm sure other interior designers would like and what their homeowners would like, and then that's the kind of products that we launch. So that's how it's all kind of started, and it's just ever growing. We've got plenty more collections coming out, new brand partners that we're working with. So it's it's a rapidly growing part of the business.
What new collections have you got lined up?
Okay, so I have to get my thinking cap on here because there's quite a few. So first and foremost, and actually you're going to be filming it, Rich, we are launching a new collection with Addison Ross. So we launched our rattan frames, which I'm sure you guys are bored of hearing about. I talk about them all the time, but I'm super proud of that collection. So we launched them in a 5x7 size. Then we've just last week launched them in an 8x10 inches size. But in September the 7th, we are launching our char green collection. It's all faux char green. So it's a mixture of bronze coloured metal and this faux char green leather, which is so beautiful. And we're doing not just frames, but we're doing trays, tissue boxes, waste paper bins, but waste paper bins that have got a lid on so you can't see the rubbish inside. A little box that you can put on your coffee table, you can hide your remote controls. I am so excited about that one. Then we are also, and this is a very different category and like, you know, not something that you can just do click and buy, but something I get asked about all the time. Like, you might be able to see one over my shoulder is my doors. And we are doing a door collection and a screen collection with SWD. And that I think is launching in October or November. So that will be great. And then we're also launching a furniture collection, but this is very early days. I still haven't actually even drawn all the designs. So I'm sure that will be next year.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love it.
Lots to look forward to. Is there anything planned at your house?
What I can share with you now is I've actually just changed my fencing.
Really?
And do you know, fencing to me is not that exciting until I discover this fencing. Do you want to come and see it?
I'd love to come and see it.
Okay, should we go and have a look now?
Let's go and have a look.
Okay. So this area here is our kids' play area, but this is just like the best area if you've got kids. We've got like a trampoline down the bottom, sand pit, playhouse. But what I'm really excited about is this, because if you've watched this channel for a long time, you might know that I love and I'm obsessed with wicker baskets, and I've managed to find a fence that looks like a wicker basket. This is by Jackson's Fencing. and it got installed while we were away, and I just absolutely love it. I just think it looks so rustic chic.
And handy if you want to like grow some climbing plants.
Yeah, I think like eventually I might get some like roses and grow the roses over it. Our neighbours are currently doing some landscaping, so they'll have some landscaping their side. But I think it's one of those fences that's going to look better the longer it's there. It will kind of like silver and just embed itself in. And the great thing about this, like obviously fencing is not cheap, and it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to spend my money on. But it's got a 25-year guarantee, so that's it. I'm never buying any more fencing again. And it's all made in the UK, so it's sustainable, and they have some specialist treatment that means they can guarantee it for rot or insect attack for 25 years.
25 years?
25 years, I like that kind of guarantee. I mean, there's not many things in life you get guaranteed for 25 years.
No, there's not, but this fence is one of them.
This fence is one of them, and more importantly for me, I know it's like not what you should care about the fencing, but I just love how it looks. I think it just looks so rustic chic here. I've got a renewed love for this area now. So that's one of the few changes we've had done. I love this kitchen, but I've had it for 11 years, and to be honest, we've grown out of it. Like if I was to redesign it again, I would do it differently. But this room is enormous, but it's all doors. You've got along there, it's all French doors. Behind me there's the door to the utility room, door to the entrance hall, and door to the playroom. There isn't actually that much storage. And I know this is like, you know, first world problems, but I would love to have a second fridge, a bigger fridge, a second freezer. And so long-term goals, what I would love to do is change the kitchen. I don't just want to like change the kitchen. I've designed a kitchen myself. We design a lot of kitchens for our clients, custom kitchens, but I would like to launch this one as a collection. And then what I'll do is make this whole area all kitchen. I'll do a much bigger island, like room for 6 bar stools on the island. This whole wall here will become, you can actually show that, Rich. I've had a little leak. Rich is trying really hard not to get the leak in, but we'll keep it real on this channel. So this whole wall is going to become storage, maybe like a breakfast pantry. And what I'm really excited about doing is making the garden more accessible.
We've got some more questions to answer though, so should we go back to it?
Yes, let's go back.
How do you get clients, and how do you get the type of projects you get?
So that has been like a long journey. Like when I started out, I don't know if I touched on this earlier, but like you kind of have to just take what you're given, because obviously you're building your portfolio. So I started with much smaller budgets, much smaller projects. One thing that I've always had in the back of my mind is like you always want to be growing and sort of improving your portfolio. So I took on projects at the beginning based on how good I thought they would look in my portfolio, not necessarily like how much money I would make or how easy they would be, but like would they get me more projects that would look like that. In terms of how I get clients, like definitely social media has been a huge part. I would say like 90% of my clients have come through social media in one way or another, whether that's they themselves have followed me on social media, or one of their friends or family members have, and then they might have like recommended that they get in touch, or the initial client might have found me through social media and then they've recommended me to friends and family. So social media has been a huge part of that. And then, like I say, recommendations as well. And referrals are really nice because you kind of, they have a sense of security that like you're tried and tested, and you also, as the interior designer, you know, sometimes these clients are going to be in your life for 3-4 years. If you have someone that you know mutually, it's like a sense of security in that way as well. And then like how I get the kind of projects I want, like what I said earlier is, I think if you're an interior designer and you're doing social media or you're doing marketing, always think about, you know, you might have to take some projects on that aren't necessarily aligned with what you want your company to be associated with. It might not be a style that resonates with you. Just if you do those, that's absolutely fine, but maybe don't show those on your website or on your social media. Put out there what you'd like to attract more of. So if you're doing smaller projects but you want to attract bigger projects, show less of the smaller rooms and show bigger rooms so that you can demonstrate that you know how to deal with big spaces. I believe a lot in manifestation. It's not just like, oh, I want this to happen and then it will happen, but you kind of have in the back of your mind, this is where I want to be, and always be sort of guiding yourself towards that direction. Every decision you make, have that with the end goal in mind.
What soft skills do you need to be an interior designer?
I think being a perfectionist definitely helps. You know, if you're not aiming for perfection, you're not going to get close to it. You need to be obsessed with detail and very observant, super organized, resilient. I think people's idea of what they think interior design is, if an interior designer ever answers the question honestly what it's really like to be an interior designer, it's not nearly as glamorous as people think. There's a lot of admin, a lot of, you know, just site meetings. Like for every single thing that you'll see in a room, there's probably been like 5-6 hours of design time, meetings, emails going on. So being organised is a really, really important one. Being resilient, because I think, you know, you might be able to relate to this as well, Rich, but when you're creative, you do put your heart and soul into things, and you can feel like you burn out and you can feel quite drained. And if people don't like what you're doing, whether it's your client doesn't like it or they're not quite trusting you or the process, that can be quite draining. But you need to somehow just fill your tank back up, because you have to stay always like inspired and inspiring. You have to bring a lot of energy to be a creative and be successful. So find things that fill you up, whether it's exercise or travel, or even just go for a walk, or if you've got a dog, spend time with the dog. Like I would love to have a dog because that always energizes me. Yeah, I think those are the most important things.
How do you balance motherhood and running a company?
It's an internal juggle. Some weeks I balance it very well, other weeks I feel like I'm really letting myself down. And I think, you know, today for me filming was a bit of a struggle, because I'm feeling that I'm having a week where I'm not really getting the balance right. Even though I've just come back from holiday, you know, I don't really ever switch off. So in my head, you know, that was going to be my sort of 9 days where I was going to really have like great quality time with the children, and I was really going to be present. And I feel a little bit disappointed with myself that I wasn't. You know, I spent a lot of time on my phone doing work things. There was a lot of going on behind the scenes with preparing for like 2 installations in the Middle East. And I was quite distracted, and I feel like, oh, let myself down as a mum a bit. The fact that like I didn't spend as much time with them as I would have liked. And then I'm about to go into a really, really busy period where I'm going to the Middle East, and we've got all these project installations. I'm going to be away for like weeks at a time. So, you know, I'm sharing all that just to let you guys know that although it might seem that I've got the perfect balance, I definitely feel like I don't always have the perfect balance. In terms of how day to day I ever get close to getting a good balance is support. And I can't tell you how many times I've said this, but the reason I say it again is because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I don't do everything by myself. I've got a team of 15 at work that help me do all the projects. It's not possible to do them by yourself. And a lot of them have skills that I don't have. They do things that I couldn't do. Likewise, I do things they couldn't do. Everything's a team effort. And then at home, I've got a housekeeper that helps me keep the house as tidy as I do. It would be a complete pigsty if it was just down to me. Not that I'm not, you know, I like to be tidy, but like tidying up after 2 children is a lot of work. That's a full-time job as well as doing the other job. And then I have a nanny Monday to Thursday, and my husband is super supportive and hands-on, and that's the only way that like I manage to get some semblance of balance. But even with all that support, I still can get, you know, I can feel like I've let myself down as a mum. Particularly, I think the mum guilt thing is something that every working mum can deal with. And then there'll be weeks when I'm like, oh, I'm being a great mum, but maybe I need to do a bit more work. So it's just try not to judge yourself too harshly.
Do you have any regrets?
As a rule, no. I feel like, you know, even things that like at the time have felt really, really hard, whether that's on a personal level or a professional level, I look at where I am now and there's nowhere else I'd want to be. So I feel like I do believe in the sliding doors sort of scenario, that you can make one thing different and then your whole life now might be different. You might lose something that you really love. So no, I think it's really good not to have regrets. Is there anything I would do differently? Nothing that I think of on a daily basis. I think probably my degree was a waste of time. You know, if I should have stuck to my guns. I think that's the thing I've learned, is like when I haven't listened to my gut, whether it's, you know, a builder trying to talk me out of a certain detail because it's more difficult for them to do, and I've kind of, more early on in my career, we don't do that anymore, but like early on in my career I could have been talked out of it, then I'd look back and be like, oh, I should have just stuck to what I thought. And then with my degree, I should have studied interior design or interior architecture. That would have been much more useful than business and Spanish. But I think there's no point holding on to regrets. Like, would it change anything? Would I change anything about my life now? Absolutely not. So I think everything happens for a reason.
A couple more questions, right. So what's your biggest goal for the future?
Biggest goal? So I always have multiple goals on the go at any one time. And again, I think that's part of why like had the success that I've had, is that don't put all your eggs into one basket. So if I'm pinning all my hopes on one project, no, that's too much pressure. I always have like multiple proposals that we're sending out, multiple collections, kind of like spread your risk and try and have different revenue streams. But the one thing that I'm really like putting a lot of energy into at the moment is trying to find a new office and a showroom. I've got quite a specific list of requirements. Like, it would be easier to move home and find a new home than find an office. But I want it to have curb appeal. I would like it to be in a period property. I'd like it to be like within 15 minutes of where we are now, but still near like the A3 and the M25, so it's good for my staff to get to and good for my clients. And I've got like a vision board on my phone of what I want it to look like, and I've been looking for like 2 years. So that would be amazing, to find a premises where we could like have all the team all in at the same time. I'd have like a beautiful showroom, a great client receiving area, maybe even like an event space. That would be the ultimate.
Last question.
Ooh.
You ready?
This has flown by.
It's flown by. Final question, the big one. What advice would you give to others looking to break into the industry?
Yeah, I think I've touched on this a bit, but I think just there's so many different ways to get into the industry. Like, if there's one thing that people are watching this take from it, don't be put off if you think you don't have the ability to go and do a degree, whether that's because you're a single mum or you don't have the finances. There's lots of things that you can study as short courses, and it's just stepping stones. You might not get straight away to where you want to be, but if you do like watch YouTube videos on AutoCAD, I'm sure they exist, on Estimac, if there's any free tutorials, do all of those, build up your portfolio, demonstrate the skills that you have, and think outside the box. So whilst you might not have a portfolio, or maybe your home isn't where it doesn't reflect what you'd like to do, maybe do some rendered elevations using Photoshop and AutoCAD, show what you're capable of. And when you're applying for jobs or internships, know that it is a very competitive industry. We actually can't take on interns because we don't have enough space for them. Like, all of our desks are taken. When I get the new office, that will change. But think outside the box. So just show that you're a really sort of a person that's got good initiative, whether it's, I have a driving license and I could drive you to site visits. Illustrate how you could make that person's life easier, because having an intern, having a new member of staff, it does take a lot of energy. So if you can be the kind of person, you can show that you can be the person that will make their life easier in the long term, that will set you ahead of the rest. Okay, that's all for today's video. I've absolutely loved catching up with you and sharing some of my journey with you. Thank you, Rich, so much for coming. It was lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too.
And if you would like to get more regular updates, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Sophie Interiors. And also, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure you do, because we've got some incredible videos coming this summer. 2 insane villas that we're finishing in the Middle East that we're going to be sharing with you. You don't want to miss it. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys.